Imagine the scenario for a second. There's this silent, invisible threat. And it isn't some far-off future thing. It's right now. Actively, meticulously stealing your most sensitive secrets today. But here's the kicker. It's not decrypting them now. Oh no. It's archiving them, just waiting. Patiently waiting for a technology that hasn't even fully arrived yet. Sounds like sci-fi, maybe. It's not. This is a very real, very present danger. It's called the Harvest Now, Decrypt Later doctrine. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we unpack these complex topics, sift through all the noise, and hopefully bring you the most critical, actionable insights. Today, we are plunging headfirst into, well, frankly, the urgent world of post-quantum cryptography, and especially this immediate danger, harvest now, decrypt later, or HNDL, as you'll hear it called. We heard from you, you're asking about the true scope of this quantum risk, right? Like, who are the immediate adversaries? How quickly do organizations like yours actually need to respond? And what about all the data that's already stored? Do we need to re-encrypt everything? Plus, how are the big cloud players, say, someone like AWS, tackling this massive challenge? So we've gathered a stack of authoritative sources, think intelligence reports, government directives, cutting-edge industry analyses. We're going to cut through the FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and give you a clear picture of what's really important for you to know right now. Okay, let's dive in. So to really wrap our heads around the urgency of harvest now, decrypt later, we first need to set the stage, I think. This looming cryptographic shift, it's huge. When we talk about post-quantum cryptography, PQC, we're not just talking about a patch or a stronger password, not even just a slightly better algorithm. This sounds like a fundamental, like a paradigm shift, right? Changing the whole mathematical foundation of how we secure everything online.
That's absolutely right. It's a complete overhaul. And, gets right to the core of the problem. What's really fascinating, I think, is that PQC isn't just an upgrade. It's a whole new class of cryptographic algorithms. They're specifically designed from the ground up to withstand attacks from these future quantum computers. Because these machines, they operate on principles, quantum mechanics, that are just completely alien to our classical computers. And that alien nature is precisely what makes our current encryption methods so, well, fragile against them.
The stuff we rely on every single day, like for banking, emails.
Exactly. Almost everything's secure online today. Think RSA, elliptic curve cryptography, ECC. These are the workhorses. They rely on mathematical problems that are currently incredibly difficult, practically impossible for classical computers to solve. Take RSA, for example. Its security hangs entirely on how hard it is to factor huge numbers into their prime components. Imagine trying to crack a super complex byte lock by guessing every single combination, one after the other. For a standard 2048-bit RSA key, even the world's fastest supercomputer today would take, well, thousands, maybe millions of years. It's just not feasible.
Right. Practically impossible today. But that's where the quantum threat really changes the game, doesn't it? Classical computers take forever, but quantum.
Exactly. That's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, a bit scary. Back in 1994, a mathematician named Peter Shor developed what we now call Shor's algorithm. And this algorithm, run on a powerful enough quantum computer, can solve those hard problems like factoring large numbers for RSA or the discrete logarithm problem for ECC and Diffie-Hellman in what's called polynomial time. Think about that byte clock again. A classical computer is trying combinations one by one. Shor's algorithm on a quantum machine. It's like it can explore vast numbers of possibilities almost simultaneously. It can sort of see the structure of the problem differently and find the answer incredibly fast.
An exponential speedup, they call it.
An exponential speedup. It means RSA, ECC, Diffie-Hellman key exchange. The foundations of secure communication online, they become obsolete. Basically, overnight, once a sufficiently powerful quantum computer, a CRQC, exists, it's less like guessing the combination and more like having the architectural blueprint for the lock itself. You just know how to open it.
So it's not just about keeping secret anymore. It sounds like it goes much deeper than that, potentially even more devastating. You mentioned Shor's algorithm compromises digital signatures too. Why are digital signatures so critical? What happens if someone can just forge them?
That's a fantastic point, and it highlights a really fundamental vulnerability. Digital signatures are absolutely crucial. They're how we authenticate who we are online, how we verify software hasn't been tampered with. They underpin the entire public key infrastructure, or PKI. PKI is essentially the internet's trust system. It tells your browser, yes, this website is legitimate. It confirms an email really came from the sender, it claims. It assures you that that software update you're installing is genuine and safe. It's all about authenticity and integrity.
The bedrock of trust, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So imagine if an adversary could forge those signatures. The implications are systemic. Truly destabilizing. They could impersonate your bank server, fooling you into giving up credentials. They could push out fake malicious software updates to critical systems, power grids, hospitals, financial networks, turning legitimate tools into weapons. They could forge legal documents, rewrite contracts, fake diplomatic messages.
Wow.
Yeah. It shifts the threat from just privacy losing data to undermining the very legitimacy of our digital interactions. It could cause widespread chaos, a total breakdown of trust in everything we do online. Arguably, that's even more damaging than just having data exposed.
That's a sobering thought. But it's important to make a distinction here, isn't it? Because we hear about different types of encryption. Not everything is equally vulnerable, right? What about symmetric algorithms like AES?
Precisely. That's a crucial distinction. Symmetric algorithms, like the Advanced Encryption Standard or AES, are a different beast. Shor's algorithm doesn't directly break them in the same way it breaks RSA or ECC. However, there's another quantum algorithm to consider. Grover's algorithm, developed by Grover in '96. Grover's provides a quadratic speedup for brute force attacks against symmetric keys. So what does that mean? It effectively halves the security strength. For example, AES 128, which offers 128 bits of security today, would effectively be reduced to offering only 64 bits of security against a quantum attacker using Grover's.
Okay, so still a threat, but maybe not an existential one like Shor's for RSA.
Exactly. And the good news here, relatively speaking, is that the fix is much simpler. For symmetric encryption, you can essentially counteract Grover's algorithm by doubling the key length. So you move from AES 128 to AES 256. That gives you an effective 128 bits of security, even in the quantum era. It's a straightforward upgrade, just increasing the key size, not requiring a complete mathematical revolution like PQC does for public key systems.
Okay, that makes sense. A simpler fix for symmetric, but a whole new mathematical foundation needed for the asymmetric stuff that underpins so much of our online trust. Which brings us back to the timeline question. This quantum future always felt, well, decades away, like something out of science fiction. But everything we're seeing suggests that timeline is shrinking dramatically. What's pushing it forward so fast?
You've absolutely nailed the critical point there. And it's probably one of the most misunderstood parts of this whole quantum threat. For years, predictions for cryptographically relevant quantum computers, CRQCs, the machines powerful enough to break RSA 2048, talked about decades, often needing millions of perfect error-corrected qubits. The assumption was building such a huge, stable quantum machine was an incredibly difficult, far-off engineering challenge, like building a warp drive almost.
Right, always 20 years away.
Always 20 years away, exactly. But recent progress, real, tangible advancements, are seriously compressing those timelines. We're seeing major players, Google, IBM, startups too, hitting significant milestones. They're building better qubits, developing error correction techniques. For instance, Google's Sycamore processor, and more recently chips like Willow, have demonstrated quantum supremacy or quantum advantage for specific tasks. Not breaking codes yet, but showing these machines can do things classical computers simply can't, hinting at the potential power. And here's something really striking. Maybe we don't need millions of perfect qubits. Recent research, including some from Google, suggests that a quantum machine with fewer than 1 million noisy qubits, meaning imperfect ones needing heavy error correction, might be able to break 2048-bit RSA in potentially under a week.
Under a week. With noisy qubits.
Potentially, yes. That's a staggering 20 times faster than some previous estimates. The implication is that the bar for a cryptographically relevant machine might be lower and reachable sooner than we thought.
Yeah.
Even imperfect systems could pose a huge threat. These aren't just small steps. They feel like leaps that are forcing us to rethink the whole timeline.
So what are the experts saying now? Are the people really in the trenches on this? Are they putting a date on it?
Yeah.
Or is it still a range of possibilities?
There's no single consensus date like Q-Day is June 17, 2032, unfortunately. But the estimates are definitely becoming more urgent. It's less about if and much more about when and increasingly how soon. You have people like Vitalik Buterin from the Ethereum world who puts about a 20% chance on quantum breaks happening by 2030. And his argument is compelling. Even a 20% chance of such a catastrophic event demands immediate action, immediate PQC adoption. The risk of being unprepared is just too high.
A 1 in 5 chance by the end of this decade? Yeah, that gets your attention.
It absolutely should. Then you look at more formal reports, like the University of Waterloo's 2024 Quantum Threat Timeline Report. Highly respected. They estimate a 50% probability of quantum cracking by 2044. But crucially, they also highlight a non-zero, potentially significant risk much earlier, perhaps as early as 2035. What all these different projections show is a growing agreement. The quantum future isn't decades away anymore. It's accelerating. And that acceleration demands action now, not just vague future planning. The debate is shifting from if to when, and when looks worryingly close for data that needs long-term protection.
And if we connect these timelines to the real world,
Hmm.
what are the bigger ripple effects? We're talking major economic and security implications, right?
Oh, absolutely. It extends far beyond just losing some encrypted files. Think about the financial sector. A Capgemini report warns explicitly about quantum disruptions hitting banking and blockchain possibly by 2030. They envision scenarios where transaction authenticity crumbles or the security underpinning billions in digital assets just evaporates.
So the very integrity of money could be at stake.
Potentially, yes. The Global Risk Institute paints a similar picture, warning about Q-day chaos spreading through supply chains. Imagine not being able to trust the manifests for shipments, defense systems, critical infrastructure. Deloitte scenarios see quantum futures really taking shape by 2030, projecting a huge market value, $28 to $72 billion, which indicates the massive investment and expected impact. And this isn't just analyst talk. Surveys show real anxiety. 63% of cybersecurity professionals cite future encryption compromise as a top quantum threat. People on the ground are genuinely worried.
Okay, so it's not a future problem, it's impacting planning now. Which leads us straight back to that chilling idea. What does this mean for your data? The stuff encrypted right now, flying across the internet, sitting on servers. Most people think, okay, we're safe until the quantum computer arrives, but there's this immediate, sneakier threat already happening. Harvest now, decrypt later. Can you break down HNDL for us? What makes it so insidious?
This is probably the most critical piece for everyone listening today. Harvest now, decrypt later. HNDL, or sometimes SNDL. Store now, decrypt later. It's a sophisticated, deeply unsettling cyber attack strategy. Here's the gist. Adversaries, usually well-funded nation-states, aren't waiting for quantum computers. They are already intercepting, copying, and storing massive amounts of encrypted data today. They make no attempt to decrypt it immediately. They're playing the long game. They're betting that future quantum computers will eventually break the encryption on all this data they stockpiled. Q-day arrives, and suddenly they have access to years, maybe decades, worth of secrets.
And the insidious part.
The insidious part is its silence. Because they're not breaking anything now, there's no immediate breach detected. No data gets decrypted right away. So traditional security tools, intrusion detection systems, looking for weird activity or data being stolen now, they see nothing. No alarms go off. The actual exploitation phase is delayed, maybe for 5, 10, 20 years, until the quantum tech matures. The value isn't the initial quiet theft, it's the future intelligence bonanza. This forces a huge shift in thinking away from just reacting to breaches towards proactively managing long-term risk based on how long data needs to stay secret.
And this isn't just theory. Agencies are actually seeing this happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not speculative. Intelligence agencies, cybersecurity experts, they widely acknowledge HNDL as an active strategy. Advanced Persistent Threats, APTs, are doing this right now.
That's genuinely disturbing, like a digital time bomb ticking away, but you don't even hear the ticking. So what kind of data is most vulnerable here? What are they grabbing?
The scale is just immense. Basically, any data encrypted with vulnerable algorithms, RSA, ECC, especially if it travels over public networks, is potentially harvestable. We're talking trillions of dollars worth of encrypted data flowing daily. But HNDL attackers are strategic. They focus on data with a long secrecy lifetime. Information that will still be valuable, sensitive, or strategically important years or decades from now.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. Think national security secrets, classified documents, intelligence reports often needing protection for 50 years or more. Think critical intellectual property, R&D data, trade secrets, patent filings, crown jewels for many companies. Medical records are a huge target. They often have legal retention for 7, 10 years. But the health information itself, that can be valuable for blackmail or fraud for decades. Long-term financial records too, maybe cryptocurrency wallets or transaction histories, their value can grow and the record stays relevant. And of course, personally identifiable information, PII, social security numbers, biometric data, detailed personal histories. If harvested now, they could enable devastating identity theft or espionage years down the road.
And the victim has no clue it's gone.
Exactly. That's the aha moment. You have no idea. Your most precious secrets have been quietly copied and archived, waiting for decryption day. Detection is incredibly hard.
Even something like blockchain. I hear people say it's inherently secure. But is it vulnerable to this HNDL approach too?
That's a really important point, especially with so much interest in digital assets. Our sources definitely highlight this. Bitcoin, for instance, uses ECDSA elliptic curve digital signature algorithm for signatures. Quantum computers running Shor's algorithm could break ECDSA. If an attacker harvests transaction data today where public keys are revealed, they could potentially break those keys later and steal funds from dormant wallets or forge future transactions. Some estimates suggest maybe 25% of all Bitcoin could be vulnerable this way if the public keys have been exposed. So even decentralized systems aren't automatically immune to the HNDL threat.
Wow, okay, so the concern is real. That Thala's report said 61% of organizations fear HNDL. That's a majority.
It is. And experts like those at Walter are even saying HNDL is the primary quantum risk today. Not the quantum computer itself, but the harvesting happening in anticipation of it. It's shifted from a theoretical exercise to a very present, acknowledged threat.
Which logically leads to who? Who are the main actors doing this harvesting now? Who should we be most worried about in the near term, say the next 1 or 2 years, 2025, 2027? Who has the motive and the means?
The overwhelming consensus points to well-resourced nation-state intelligence agencies. Think countries like China, Russia, the U.S., and their associated APT groups. These are the primary actors driving large-scale HNDL campaigns. While advanced cybercrime groups are definitely a threat and getting more sophisticated, nation-states generally dominate HNDL because of the sheer scale and long-term perspective needed.
Why them specifically?
Several reasons. First, resources. State backing means virtually unlimited funding, personnel, and time. These aren't quick hit-and-run attacks. They're persistent, multi-year, even multi-decade intelligence operations. Second, motivation. It goes way beyond just money. They're seeking strategic advantage, disrupting rivals' critical infrastructure, stealing military secrets, gaining economic intelligence, grabbing valuable IP. HNDL is perfect for long-term intelligence gathering that serves these geopolitical goals. And third, infrastructure. They can afford to build and maintain the massive systems needed to intercept, filter, transport, and store petabytes upon petabytes of encrypted data, waiting potentially decades for the quantum decryption key.
And we see evidence of this in their investments, right? Like China's huge spending on quantum.
Absolutely, that's a clear signal. China's reported $15 billion plus investment in quantum R&D is significant. And things like their misuse satellite, demonstrating quantum key distribution, QKD. While QKD is often framed as secure communication, that kind of advanced quantum tech could also potentially be leveraged for sophisticated interception and harvesting. Russia's investments in quantum sensors could also enhance interception capabilities. These aren't just academic pursuits, they signal strategic intent in the quantum domain, which includes breaking current crypto.
Okay, but let's be clear for that 2025-2027 timeframe. We're not expecting widespread code breaking then, are we?
No, probably not widespread, commercially available decryption. Breaking RSA 2048 likely needs thousands of stable, logical qubits. Current systems are in the hundreds, and they're mostly noisy, experimental ones. We're still a way off from that specific capability being readily available. However, the real threat in that immediate time frame, the next couple of years, is intensified harvesting. It's preparatory attacks, maybe mapping networks, stealing credentials, and potentially the emergence of hybrid quantum classical exploits that might start to weaken specific implementations even before full Shor's is feasible.
So the groundwork is being laid even more aggressively now.
Exactly. Industry warnings are clear. Microsoft states outright, malicious actors are harvesting today. Deloitte scenarios see quantum threats emerging in that 2025-2027 window as error correction improves.
Yeah.
Some analyses even call quantum an existential threat by 2025, especially thinking about how AI could optimize harvesting. Experts like Eva Salamar-Luthold predict the first actual encryption breaks maybe around 2028, but emphasize that the harvesting is ramping up now.
And non-state actors.
Cybercrime. They're a factor, certainly. They could potentially buy harvested data dumps on dark markets later, but the sheer scale and long-term nature of HNDL really points to nation-states as the dominant players right now because of those resources and strategic goals we talked about. So the crux of it, the immediate present danger, is the ongoing silent data harvesting by these incredibly capable patient adversaries. It's not the quantum computer arriving tomorrow, it's the vacuum cleaner running today.
That's a powerful image. The vacuum cleaner running today, it totally reframes the urgency. We're not waiting for an event, we're in it. So if the harvesting is happening now, how fast do organizations need to act? This can't just be about waiting for Q day anymore, can it?
Precisely. It's not about some hypothetical future date. The urgency is driven by your data's lifespan. How long does it need to stay secret? That's the critical question. There's a useful framework for this, called Mosca's theorem from quantum expert Mikhail Mosca. It's pretty simple conceptually. X plus Y must be greater than or equal to Z.
Okay, break that down. X, Y, Z.
Right? X is how long your data needs to remain secret. Its secrecy lifetime. Could be days, could be 50 years. Y is how long it will take your organization to migrate fully to PQC. Finding all your crypto, updating systems, resecuring data that takes time, often years. And Z is the uncertain part. When will a cryptographically relevant quantum computer actually arrive? The machine that can break today's codes.
So X plus Y is Z.
Exactly. If your data needs to be secret for, say, 20 years, that's X, and you estimate it will take you 7 years to migrate to PQC, that's Y, then X plus Y is 27. You need to be confident that Z, the arrival of a CRQC, is more than 27 years away. But given the accelerating timelines we discussed, can you be confident of that? For data needing long-term security, national secrets, medical records, IP, that equation likely already puts you in the act now zone. If Z might be only 10, 15 years away and your X is 20 years, you needed to start your Y migration years ago.
You're already behind the curve for your most valuable long-lived data.
For many, yes. That's the stark reality Mosca's theorem highlights. The migration time itself means you have to start long before the threat Z fully materializes, especially if your data's required secrecy extends beyond Z.
So given that equation, I assume government directives and expert advice are pretty forceful on this. Are they all saying, go now?
Remarkably unanimous and urgent. Across the board, governments, standards bodies, security experts, they're all warning that PQC migration needs to begin immediately. For critical data, proactive migration isn't just recommended, it's often described as overdue. Look at NIST, the U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology. Their 2024 guidance sets 2035 as the final deadline for full PQC transition. But more urgently, they want organizations to stop using RSA 2048 and ECC 256 by 2030 and ban them entirely by 2035 for new stuff.
And they're saying start planning.
Start planning now. They explicitly tell organizations. Conduct your crypto inventories now. Start testing the new NIST standardized PQC algorithms like MLChem and MLDSA now. And it's not just the US. Australia's Signals Directorate targets 2030. Canada wants high priority systems done by 2031, everything by 2035. The UK's NCSE aims for 2035, but with key milestones much sooner, like 2028 and 2031 for critical infrastructure. Industry leaders like IBM are telling clients, launch quantum-safe programs now. CSO Online says flatly, enterprises have to move faster than 2035. The guidance for high-risk sectors, government, finance, is often act within 1 year. Others, maybe 2-3 years to get serious programs rolling.
So what's the real risk of waiting if organizations just sort of kick the can down the road a bit longer? What happens if they delay?
The cost of delay is potentially catastrophic, and crucially, often irreversible for the data already harvested. Let's take that 20% chance of a CRQC by 2030. If that happens, any sensitive data encrypted with vulnerable algorithms and harvested after, say, 2025 or 2026 could be exposed forever. Think about the implications. Years of national security intelligence gone, a company's entire R&D pipeline, future drug formulas stolen and given to competitors, personal health data, financial histories meant to be private for life suddenly accessible, leading to permanent identity theft risks or worse. The call to action is crystal clear. Significant PQC migration efforts need to start by 2026 at the latest to mitigate these potentially existential risks. It's not about a distant threat. It's about a rapidly closing window for protecting data that's already flowing out the door via harvesting.
Okay, this sounds incredibly complex, a huge undertaking, which leads to the next big question I know people are asking. Does all existing encrypted data need to be re-encrypted? Like everything sitting on servers or backups? And how hard is that anyway? It can't be easy.
That's a really important practical question. And the answer is nuanced. Thankfully, no, not all data needs re-encryption. That would be practically impossible and likely unnecessary. It really boils down to two things: the type of encryption used and that critical factor, the data's required secrecy lifetime.
So what does need it?
Specifically, data that needs long-term protection, years, decades, and is currently encrypted using those vulnerable legacy asymmetric algorithms like RSA or ECC. This applies particularly to data at rest stuff, on servers, in cloud storage, on backup tapes. Even if it's not moving, it's vulnerable to future decryption if harvested. So it's a targeted effort. Focus on your high-value, long-lived data, your crown jewels. It's not about brute forcing everything. And often the process isn't even about decrypting the terabytes of raw data and re-encrypting it directly. A more common approach involves rewrapping the keys that protect the data. Think key encapsulation keys, or KEYs. You rewrap these KEYs using new PQC-safe key encapsulation mechanisms, or KEMs.
Like putting a new, stronger lock on the box that holds the key to the main vault.
Exactly like that. It's a way to secure the data indirectly but effectively, and it's often much more efficient than touching the bulk data itself. Still complex, but more manageable. And importantly, contrast this with data encrypted symmetrically at rest, say with AES 256. AWS and others generally consider this safe from Shore's algorithm for now. The mitigation for Grovers, as we said, is just using longer keys like AES 256, which is a much simpler fix.
Okay, so targeted strategic re-encryption or key rewrapping for the really important long-lived stuff encrypted asymmetrically. But even that targeted effort, how hard is it? Why is it so much harder than, say, moving from DES to AES back in the day?
You've hit on the major practical hurdles. It is exceptionally difficult and resource-intensive, far more complex than previous crypto transitions. There are several big reasons why. First, a huge issue is the lack of crypto agility in many existing systems. Historically, crypto algorithms were often hard-coded deep inside applications, hardware, firmware, protocols. Systems weren't designed to easily swap out algorithms. Trying to change them requires major surgery, sometimes complete replacement.
Not built for plug-and-play crypto.
Exactly. Then there's the sheer scale. Think about a large enterprise today. Distributed cloud environments, multi-factor authentication systems everywhere, complex networks, data shared with countless partners. Finding every single place where RSA or ECC is used, it's a massive discovery challenge across potentially millions of endpoints and applications. Compatibility and performance are also big concerns. These new PQC algorithms, while secure against quantum, can be different beasts. Some have larger key sizes, larger signature sizes. A Crystal's Kyber key, for instance, is significantly larger than an RSA 2048 key.
Which means more bandwidth needed, more processing.
Potentially, yes. Increased network traffic, maybe higher latency. They can also require more computational power, which might mean needing hardware upgrades or even specialized PQC accelerator cards, which aren't widely deployed yet. And don't forget legacy hardware. This is a huge headache. Think industrial control systems in a power plant, maybe running for 20 years. Or millions of IoT sensors deployed out in the field. These things often can't be easily updated, lack the processing power for new algorithms, or are physically hard to reach.
So what do you do with those?
It often requires costly physical replacement. Or you might have to resort to network segmentation, isolating them, and then maybe using PQC-protected tunnels to let them communicate securely with the outside world. Adds layers of complexity. And finally, you're hugely dependent on your supply chain, your software vendors, your hardware providers, your cloud services. They all need to provide PQC-capable updates and ensure new stuff you buy is quantum-ready. If your key suppliers lag behind your own migration stalls, it requires massive industry coordination.
Okay, so definitely not simple. Organizations really need a plan, a structured approach. If you're listening and thinking, okay, what do we actually do? What does that phased framework for readiness look like?
You absolutely need a roadmap. And the sources point towards a pretty consistent three-phased approach. Phase 1, preparation and planning. This needs to be happening right now, like yesterday. First step, get executive buy-in. Establish a dedicated PQC program office. Get your CIO, CISO, maybe even the board involved. This needs top-level support. Then the big one, that comprehensive cryptographic inventory. You have to find everything. Every algorithm, RSA, ECC, AES, SHA, every protocol using crypto, TLS, IPsec, SSH, your certificates, your key management systems, KMS, any hardware security modules, HSMs, and crucially, all your third-party dependencies relying on crypto. You cannot protect what you don't know you have. It's foundational.
Like a full audit of your crypto DNA.
Precisely. Once you have that map, you do a risk assessment. Classify your data. How sensitive is it? How long does it need to stay secret? Apply Mosca's theorem here to prioritize. What needs migrating first? And in this phase, talk to your vendors. Proactively engage everyone's software, hardware, cloud providers. What are their PQC roadmaps? When will their products support the new NIST standards? Will they be ready when you need them to be? Phase 2, pilot and hybridization. This is likely starting now for some, or definitely in the next 1-3 years for critical systems. The key word here is hybrid. You start deploying solutions that use both classical crypto, like ECC, and a new PQC algorithm, like ML-Chem for key exchange, or MLDSA for signatures, side by side.
So belt and suspenders.
Exactly. It gives you defense in depth. You're protected against quantum threats, but you also maintain backward compatibility with systems that haven't migrated yet. You run pilot projects on high-priority systems using these hybrid modes. A major focus in this phase should also be migrating your public key infrastructure, PKI, the systems issuing certificates, and your code-signing processes to PQC. Securing the software supply chain early is absolutely critical. Phase 3, full-scale transition. This is the longer haul, maybe 3-10 years, depending on the organization's size and complexity. This is where you execute the broader migration. You replace vulnerable public key components with PQC equivalents across your infrastructure and applications. This is also where you tackle that targeted re-encryption or key rewrapping for your high-value, long-lived data at rest using PQC chems. And you implement those strategies for legacy systems, isolation, tunneling, replacement. It's the methodical, widespread rollout based on the plans and pilots from the earlier phases.
And underlying all of this, is there a core principle that makes it all manageable, not just for PQC, but for future crypto changes too?
Absolutely. The cornerstone, the philosophy you need to embed everywhere, is cryptographic agility. Or crypto agility. It's not just a buzzword. It's a fundamental architectural necessity for modern IT. It means designing your systems so you can easily switch out cryptographic algorithms and protocols without needing to rip everything apart and start over. It's about flexibility and adaptability. The PQC transition, as painful as it is actually a golden opportunity to build this agility in. If you do it right, you'll be much better prepared for the next cryptographic emergency, whatever it might be. Remember Cyc, a promising PQC candidate that got broken by a classical attack in 2022.
Right, things can change fast, even outside of quantum.
Exactly. Crypto agility means you can respond quickly to new vulnerabilities, new standards, new threats, quantum or classical, without a massive crisis each time. It's about building resilience for the long term.
That's a really important strategic takeaway. Okay, so that's the framework for organizations, but many rely heavily on cloud providers. How are the big players like AWS handling this? Are they leading the charge?
They pretty much have to, given their scale and responsibility. And yes, AWS, for example, has been quite public and proactive about their approach. They've published detailed plans for migrating to PQC. Their strategy is very much aligned with what we've discussed. A gradual, multi-layered transition. They're not flipping a giant switch. They're aligning with government timelines like the NSA's CNSA 2.0 guidance and NIST standards. They're following those key steps we outlined, doing their own internal inventory, prioritizing critical services like TLS for public endpoints first. They're heavily investing in those hybrid protocols, combining classical algorithms with NIST's PQC standards like MLChem.
So using that belt and suspenders approach on their end too.
Precisely. They're ensuring their core crypto library, AWS LZ, which is FIPS compliant, supports the necessary PQC algorithms, MLChem, MLDSA. That's a fundamental building block. They're also rolling it out gradually, allowing customers to opt into PQC for certain services initially, giving people time to test and adapt while moving towards making it the default across major services over time. And crucially, they're integrating PQC deep into core services. AWS Key Management Service, KMS for instance, is getting quantum-resistant roots of trust. They're updating TLS endpoints across services like KMS, Certificate Manager, ACM, Secrets Manager to support MLChem. They're also contributing back to the community, supporting open source projects like Open Quantum Safe, OQS, providing guidance, even sample code for customers to build their own hybrid connections. Their message is clear. The threat, especially HNDL, requires action now, even if CRQCs are still some years away.
It sounds like they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting on the infrastructure side. So does that mean if you're an AWS customer, you can just relax? Or is there still that shared responsibility model we always hear about?
That is such a critical point. And the answer is absolutely. The shared responsibility model is still firmly in play, maybe even more critically now. The fact that AWS is providing PQC-capable infrastructure does not mean customers can just sit back. Passive reliance is dangerous.
Can you clarify that distinction in the PQC context?
Yeah.
AWS does what and the customer does what?
Sure. AWS is responsible for security of the cloud. That means securing their global infrastructure, the data centers, the networks, the hardware, the hypervisors, and providing those core services with PQC capabilities built in. They provide the quantum-safe building blocks, the secure environment, but the customer is responsible for security in the cloud. That's your part. You are responsible for configuring your applications, your operating systems, your network firewalls, your identity management to actually use the PQC features AWS provides. It means managing your own cryptographic keys properly. It means identifying your high-value, long-lived data and taking action to rewrap its keys using the PQC chems available through services like KMS. It means ensuring your configurations and practices meet new PQC compliance requirements.
So AWS provides the quantum-safe locks, but you still have to choose them, install them on your doors, and manage the keys.
That's a perfect analogy. AWS builds the secure vault, but you decide what goes in it, how it's organized, and you manage the keys to your specific safe deposit boxes within that vault, ensuring you're using the strongest locks available. Active customer participation is absolutely essential. Without it, the provider's efforts don't fully protect your specific data.
That's crystal clear. It's a partnership, and the customer role is definitely not passive. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here. A real deep dive into HNDL, PQC, the timelines, the challenges, the solutions. Let's try to boil it down. What are the absolute key takeaways our listeners should walk away with today? First, I think, is that harvest now, decrypt later isn't future tense. It's present tense. It's grave. It's immediate. Sophisticated adversaries are already stockpiling sensitive, encrypted data today, betting on future quantum decryption. The clock has been ticking for a while now.
Absolutely. Second takeaway, your action timeline isn't dictated by some fuzzy Q day. It's dictated by your data's secrecy lifetime plugged into Mosca's theorem, X plus UZ. For data needing long-term protection, the need to start migrating. The Y part is now, because X is large and Z is uncertain but approaching. Waiting is actively increasing your risk.
Third, no, you don't need to re-encrypt everything. That's overwhelming and unnecessary. But you do need to identify your high-value, long-lived data encrypted with older asymmetric algorithms, RSA, ECC, and plan for its targeted re-encryption or key rewrapping. It's complex, yes, but critical.
And finally, while cloud giants like AWS are making huge strides providing PQC infrastructure and tools, it's a shared responsibility. Your active participation is non-negotiable. You have to configure your systems, manage your keys, and implement PQC within your own environment to actually benefit from the security they offer. You can't just assume the cloud provider handles it all for you.
Right. So this whole PQC transition is clearly more than just a technical upgrade to avoid a future crisis. It sounds like a forcing function, really. A strategic imperative driving a fundamental modernization of our digital infrastructure. Beyond just securing secrets, it's this massive opportunity, maybe even a requirement, to build true crypto agility into our systems, resilience against any future crypto breaks, quantum or otherwise. So the final thought for you listening right now is, what concrete steps will you take starting today to inventory your digital secrets, understand your risks, and begin securing your digital future against tomorrow's and indeed today's threats?